True heroes tend to be humble, but we've managed to coax them into the spotlight. If you need a quick hit of faith in humanity, come on in and get cozy because hope lives here with Helaina Hovitz Regal.
This is Helaina Hovitz Regal, shining a spotlight on people living with purpose who might even help you find yours. Today I'm speaking with Adina Lichtman, who is the founder and CEO of the nonprofit Knock Knock Give a Sock. Adina, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me today. I'm really excited. When you emailed me about coming on, I was super excited.
Well, I have been following you for some time, but likely people are maybe being introduced to you for the first time. So tell us exactly what Knock Knock Give a Sock is, and even a little bit more than that, where the idea first came from and how your nonprofit got started.
Sure. So Knock Knock Give a Sock is an organization dedicated to collecting socks for those in need while working to eliminate the stigma around homelessness. The way this story kind of got started is I come from a small town in New Jersey, and it's the type of town where I knew most of the people who lived at my block, knew most people by name, and it was the type of neighborhood where, you see someone in the morning and you say good morning. So when I first started NYU, where I went to school, I would be walking to class and I would know the guy who made coffee for me. I would know the barista. So throughout my college years, I really got to know the different neighbors who were around me on the streets. And I would be walking to class and they'd be like, "Good luck on your finals, Adina." And it was a really great feeling, and it really made me feel New York City was one community and one neighborhood. And so one night, I was giving out a couple sandwiches with some friends to some of our neighbors on the street who were experiencing homelessness. And one guy said, "Adina, thank you so much for giving us sandwiches tonight, but what we could actually really use, because it's winter, are a pair of socks." And I was kind of taken aback, just because so many times I realized that we give out of the goodness of our hearts and wanting to do good and make this change, but how often do we stop and ask, "How can I help you? What do you need?" And that was kind of that light bulb moment, that aha moment where I wanted to listen to the needs of my neighbors as opposed to assuming based on what I saw what their needs might be. So that night I thought my neighbors needed sandwiches. And what I learned that night from my friend Diego was actually one thing that they really needed were socks. So after I learned that lesson that night, I went up to my dorm room and I opened my drawer and I saw I had pink socks, polka dotted socks, and socks that were too small and clearly not going to fit my new friend Diego. I was living in a college dorm at the time and I decided to knock on every door on my floor. And in about 15 minutes, I got over 40 pairs of socks. And I was like, whoa, that was amazing. What was even crazier was the next morning I opened my door and I saw another 30 pairs of socks.
Oh, there was just a pile of socks outside your dorm room, just waiting for you the next morning.
Yeah, because I was like walking around, people were like, "Hey, I'm actually doing laundry right now. Hey, I'll tell my roommate when they get back." And different people who told me that they would get back to me, but I kind of assumed that they're probably just like politely saying no. I actually did. Because a pair of socks was so simple.
Yeah, and it's interesting because I feel like millennials, quote unquote, and younger folks are consistently getting a bad rap for being selfish, whereas people like me and you have seen just how quick people in their, currently in their 20s and early 30s are to actually want to do good and want to get involved and care about causes. And, especially college kids who are working and have classes and are trying to do their social lives. This is a way that they could really simply give back, but also they didn't have to, and they did. And everyone answered the call for that in like 24 hours, which is amazing.
Right, and also follow up on what you said, right? The idea that, everybody kind of wants to create this change. Everybody wants to do good, but for college students and for so many, millennials, it needs to be in a way where it's accessible, right? You don't have to have money to be able to help. You need to literally just have a pair of socks that just a pair of socks to donate. And the idea that people really do want to make change, but making change, right? Sometimes not everyone has the biggest time commitment.
Yeah.
Right? And some people don't have the financial resources. So how do you create an opportunity for people to do good if they don't have a lot of time and they don't have the financial resources to do so? And we create an opportunity for people to get involved. Well, at least that night I created an opportunity for my dorm floor to get involved.
Yeah, so how did it, I mean, now it's completely exploded into something fantastic and national, and I would venture to say likely you're heading into international territory. I mean, it's really taken off. And so tell me briefly how it went from a pile of socks outside your dorm room to now you have colleges involved, you have companies involved, you have a bunch of individuals involved in all different states across the country, and you're 25 years old now, and so we're talking about, you were still in college when this became an official movement, an official nonprofit.
Right. So when I first started, first of all, it was such a little project. I made a box outside my door that said "Give a knock, donate a sock." It wasn't even as good of a name, and I decided after that experience, I would get one person from each floor of my building to knock on doors to collect socks. And I would stand up in all my classrooms, and I would ask my college class, I would ask my professor first if I could make an announcement, but I would get my college classes involved and have them sign up their dorm room, their building, go around knocking on doors. I put drop-off bins in the different dorms. I made a little Facebook group, and before I knew it, I had over 120 students from colleges throughout New York City, Columbia, NYU, Cooper Union, Yeshiva University, Baruch College, all these different schools that had pledged to knock on doors to collect socks. Within a month, we collected over 4,000 pairs of socks. I had to go home to Jersey and pick up my minivan and drive all around New York City and picking up all the different socks being collected throughout New York City and brought them straight to the shelter. And it kind of exploded before me. But again, when I first started this was just a project. And I had collected over 4,000 pairs in just a month. And I left NYU first semester to go do some volunteer work in India. And I came back. And then in summer I started getting emails from kids from WashU, University of Pennsylvania, Emory, all these different schools that wanted to get involved. So I was like, wow, all these schools want to get involved, then why don't I get sock companies involved? So I started emailing. That summer I probably emailed over 100 sock companies to see if they would partner with us, if they wanted to donate socks. And they all asked, they're like, not even all of them. I probably got answered by like 3 or 4 of them. And they asked me, are you a 501c3? And at that time, I didn't even know what a 501c3 was.
Yeah.
For anyone who doesn't know, it's a tax-deductible nonprofit organization that you need to work with lawyers to get.
Yeah.
And luckily, I have some lawyers in my family who helped me out. And before we knew it, we were a 501c3. And we were getting sock companies to ship tons of socks to our house. But to my house in New Jersey, so my garage was being filled. Eventually, we had to move to a warehouse because we just had so many socks that were being collected. And to date, we've collected around 400,000 pairs of socks.
So, half a million pairs of socks, and it was such a good idea. I mean, I don't think I've ever spoken to anyone who said, I pieced out for 6 months to go do some more good, and when I came back, this had taken on a life of its own, and almost without you even being there, insisted on existing. The people wanted knock knock give a sock, which is what it's called now, and
I just had to answer to the people.
Yeah. You had to finish what you started. I mean, I can't even imagine what that must have felt like to come back and see that. That must have been just like an unbelievable feeling to know that you had done that as one person with one idea who listened to one person on the street who was experiencing homelessness at the time. Because, it's like you said, it's so beautiful that people want to do good and want to give, and it's interesting that we don't stop to think to ask, like, what do you actually need right now? And we're seeing this in the last few years with other necessities as well, like for women and feminine products or women and undergarments. That's something that shelters are always at extremely low. They don't have enough. And so, but now it's not just sock collection. It's not just in colleges. Now this movement, and of course people can donate socks. People can start sock giving programs on their own, using the guidance at the Knock Knock Give a Sock website or Facebook. You guys are doing something else now with companies and corporations, so it's getting even bigger. Tell me a little bit about what you're doing there.
Yes, so by the time we got to being a senior in college, we collected close to 50,000 pairs of socks, and our slogan was very cute and catchy. Our slogan was meet your neighbors while meeting the needs of others. But there was a problem, because when we say meet your neighbors while meeting the needs of others, we had our college students meeting their neighbors who lived in the building as them or on, down the hall from them. We had companies now that were doing sock drives that were talking to their families about getting more socks involved and donated from their community. So we really had this growth where communities and neighbors were working together. But with our slogan being, meet your neighbors while meeting the needs of others, I realized they were only meeting half their neighbors. They were meeting their neighbors who were living in the same buildings as them or living down the hall from them, and they weren't meeting their neighbors on the streets, and they weren't meeting their neighbors in the shelters. And they weren't meeting my friends, Mike and Diego, when I would walk to NYU to class, and they would wish me good luck on my finals, and I would ask them how their week was going, right? They weren't meeting those neighbors. So when we say meet your neighbors while meeting the needs of others, I want to create a space where neighbors were truly meeting one another. So what I decided to do was I tried to bring 50 of my college classmates and 50 people who were experiencing homelessness to have dinner side by side. And there were a lot of people in my school who were saying, maybe this isn't the best idea, maybe this isn't the safest idea, I don't know, people don't really do this. I kind of ignored all those no's, and I rented out a room in the NYU building, and for our first Meet Your Neighbors dinner, we invited the DOE Fund, which is a job training program for men who are previously incarcerated and or homeless. And we invited another organization called Susan's Place, which is a transitional homeless shelter for women. And we brought them to NYU. And we had students and these adults coming from shelters sitting side by side for dinner. And college students were coming over to me and they're like, Adina, we can't tell who's homeless and who's not. They were meeting moms who had kids who couldn't afford childcare, so they had to live in the shelter. And they were meeting dads who were working minimum wage jobs, but that wouldn't get them out of the shelter system. They were meeting men who had gotten out of the prison system and couldn't get a job. And they were understanding that homelessness goes beyond that man who you see on the corner of your street. All of a sudden, homelessness became a face. All of a sudden, homelessness became something that was relatable. And for me, that was huge. We were trying to wrap up the dinner because the dinner was such a success and people were getting to know each other. But when we started wrapping up the tables and cleaning up, people were still sitting and talking and exchanging numbers and getting to know each other in really deep and meaningful ways. And it was incredible. And I said, this is what we need to do, but we need to expand on this and we need to grow this. And we need to bring these experiences to the corporate world. Because what people don't understand, and I'm just going to throw out a few statistics on homelessness to give people a better picture, but first of all, street homelessness in New York City. So New York City, when you see the people who are experiencing homelessness on the street, that's only 5% of the homelessness population in New York City, which means 95% of people who are homeless in New York City are living in shelters, they're living in motels, they're living in cars, they're living in doubled and tripled up homes. And homelessness is invisible. It really is invisible. And people aren't understanding the whole picture of homelessness. People, when they imagine homelessness, they imagine the guy in their street corner. They're not imagining the 20,000 children in New York City who are experiencing homelessness. they're not thinking that 1 in 7 kids in the New York City public school system will be homeless at some point in their life before hitting 5th grade. So there are so many issues around homelessness that are being unaddressed because there is so much stigma around homelessness, and there is so much stereotyping. People don't realize that 50% of individuals who age out of the foster care system end up homeless within 6 months. So there are all these issues around homelessness that people just are unaware of because there's so many stigmas and stereotypes around it. And my whole thought process behind it is the idea that when it comes to so many social justice issues, let's say race or LGBTQ, right? These issues that are on the forefront and being faced head on, part of the reason these are being addressed is because everybody knows somebody who's been affected by these. When it comes to homelessness, most people don't say, oh yeah, I have that friend Jimmy who's living in a shelter now. And what we're trying to do is put a face to homelessness so that we can create a movement around homelessness, because it's 2018 and homelessness is just on the rise. The only way we can put a stop to it is if neighbors start to get to know neighbors. So how do these two things kind of go hand in hand, right? We have these sock drives, and we're collecting socks, the most needed, the least donated article of clothing for people who are homeless. But we also have these dinners. So the way we actually have the two go hand in hand very well is if we were to go to most companies today and say, hey, do you want to have a meet your neighbors dinner? Most companies would actually say no. It's too radical of an idea. But what we do is we offer companies the opportunity to host a sock drive, and we use that opportunity as a way to build a relationship. And we always send one of our volunteers to go pick up the socks as opposed to have our offices just drop it off at a location so that we can develop a relationship with the company. And we offer them the opportunity to say, hey, you guys were such amazing sock donors. Do you want to meet the recipients of these sock donations? And we offer the opportunity in one of two ways. One is over a dinner. Or the other way is we also offer a game night where we bring small startups and companies to shelters. And we have Monopoly and chess and checkers and bingo and all these games that we grew up on. And we all play them together and really bond and get to know somebody who's experiencing homelessness. And I can tell you firsthand, for people who've experienced our dinners, that it changes the way they interact with their neighbors on the street. They don't just walk by neighbors on the street anymore. They make eye contact, they smile, they ask them how their day is going. Because all of a sudden, homelessness means something more. Because they know somebody who's been in those shoes or who is currently in those shoes.
Yeah, no pun intended. Right.
No pun intended. Or those socks.
Yeah, I mean, Adina, this is so phenomenal. So tell people who undoubtedly want to now get involved in some way with this phenomenal cause, how they can find you, how they can get involved, where you are online.
So first of all, you can definitely follow us on Knock Knock Give a Sock on Instagram. No spaces, just Knock Knock Give a Sock. And additionally, you could go to our website, knockknockgiveasock.org. If you go to kkgs.org, you can sign up to get your school, office, or community involved, and someone will be in touch with you within 24 hours and figure out how to get your office involved. We also have a page on Facebook, Knock Knock Give a Sock. That one, unlike the Instagram, is no spaces. We also have Twitter, and that's Knock Give a Sock.
Perfect. Is there anything else that you want to shout out before we bring it to a close today?
Yes. So one question I get all the time is, hey, Adina, if I see someone on the street, should I give them money or not? Because I don't know what they're going to use the money for. Should I be giving money? Should I not? Etc. I always have the same answer. Honey, it's your money. Do whatever you want with it. But the question is, how are you going to do it? If you decide not to give money, how are you going to do it? Are you just going to walk by them and avoid eye contact? Or are you going to look at them and say, I'm actually so sorry I don't have anything on me today, or I'm not able to today, but I hope you have a great day. Same goes for if you give money. That's great, but are you just going to hand over $1 and avoid eye contact? Or if you are going to hand over some money, maybe take the extra second and ask them what their name is. Ask them how they're doing. It's more about the how you do it as opposed to the what you do. And if nothing else, if you ever make eye contact with someone who's experiencing homelessness, instead of just averting your eyes, smile back and wish them a great day.
Phenomenal. There's no way to follow that up other than just to thank you so much for being here. 25 years old, wiser than half the people walking around the city. So, Adina, thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a wonderful day.
This is Helaina Hovitz Regal, shining a spotlight on people living with purpose. I hope you got your fix here today. But if you need more positive vibes, head to helainahovitz.com. Find me on Facebook or Twitter. And of course, I also wrote a book. In the words of Harvey Milk, you can't live on hope alone, but without it, life is not worth living, and you got to give them hope.